That's screwing with the wrong people. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Peep This Out, it's your boy Ian K, here to discuss the season finale, the final episode of Season 4 of The Walking Dead, an episode titled simply A, Episode 16. Guys, this episode had a very intense beginning, middle, and a pretty solid finish, I must say. Guys, a lot of great stuff in this episode. Definitely foreshadows what's going to be coming next season. They've definitely planted the seeds on what's going to be. It really left everything in question in terms of what's going to happen with the group that we did find. But guys, picking up in the very beginning, a lot of flashback sequences. They really filled in a lot of the gaps, a lot of the things to throw back to the very beginning of the season, which is typical standard fare for some shows, for season finales there to kind of fill in some of the storylines. We see something with Herschel picking up, talking to Rick, the importance of farming, the idea of staying together, peaceful serenity, really kind of making something of what they have. They're going to be in the prison for a while. Basically seeing Rick from the very beginning going from the hardcore leader that he was to become a farmer, and then by the end of this episode back into that leader mode again because of some pretty horrific things that happened in this episode. This episode was billed as brutality on the sheer extreme level for Rick, seeing what was going to happen with him, and guys, this episode did not disappoint in that regard. An amazing sequence that we'll talk about in just a second. But picking up in the very beginning, we see Rick and Michonne and Carl trying to do what everybody else has been trying to do, is survive and get to Terminus. So when we pick up with Rick and Michonne and Carl, we find them basically getting up for that day, having something to eat, wanting to go check on some of the snare traps that Rick had sent for food, obviously trying to catch some rabbits there. Something that really foreshadowed what was going to happen later in the episode when you think about it there. Rick going to check on those snare traps with Carl, showing him exactly how to route those animals into the trap and seeing exactly how they can get their stuff there. So definitely foreshadowing for what was going to be down the road there. From there we see them move on from that small camp and make their way again towards Terminus, trying to do what they need to do, coming across a few walkers along the way. The main sequence of this episode, and especially the one that was the turning point, was the very next sequence that I'm going to talk about. Rick and Michonne and Carl staying overnight in an abandoned truck that you see on the side of the road there. Michonne sitting outside with Rick. At that moment there, they hear something behind them. They're not sure what it is. They think maybe it's just an animal. It could be a walker. Who knows? But lo and behold, it's actually Joe and his roving band of thieves, rapists, marauders, finally catching up with Rick and, really having a very intense exchange. Gunpoint, Joe is holding the gun to Rick's head and just making him known that, man, it is definitely, it's New Year's Eve. How could he go home? How can he go to bed on New Year's Eve? It's definitely celebration time because they finally found him. At that moment when things are about to get crazy, Daryl steps into the picture, makes it known that Rick and Michonne are good people, which Joe basically throws back in his face. That's an absolute lie because Rick had apparently killed Lou, strangled him in the house in that famous claimed episode from there. So at that moment there, things get crazy. They start beating up on Daryl. Rick, not knowing what to do, being held at gunpoint, is watching this hysteria happen around him. Michonne's got a gun on him. Some nasty fool is trying to make moves on Carl, which was a very hard thing to watch. Definitely watching what was happening there. Carl pulled from the truck and essentially was about to be violated right there. Rick, not knowing what to do, snaps his head back against Joe, who had a gun to him. Gun pops off, blows away, around right there. Momentarily deafens Rick. You see him really kind of like in awe of what's happening right now. The gun, everything gets really silent, but you can hear things going on. Very intense. Finally, more fighting ensues. Rick gets up. Next thing you know, they're together. Joe is on him. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And Rick doing something that was very reminiscent of what a walker would do. Really pretty much at that point there made it known that it was on. At that point, Rick lunges forward and completely rips the jugular out of Joe's throat. It was an intense scene, something that special effects wise was the most horrific thing I think I have ever seen in this show, especially from Rick. I mean, this guy is the poster child of The Walking Dead and all the, look behind me, I mean, it's got Rick everywhere. Just to see him do that, to realize he needed to do what he needed to do to protect his son, to protect the people that he loves. At that moment, the farmer was dead. He was definitely going to be the one that was going to really step up to the plate again. He's going to have to do what he has to do. This is a very violent world. But watching Joe fall back with the blood shooting out, watching Rick turn his head towards the camera and shoot out that piece with that blast of mist right there, it was just an intense scene. At that moment, Michonne, everyone is stunned. The guy who had a gun on Michonne the whole time is sitting there stunned. Michonne turns around, takes the gun real quick at him, pops him in the face, kills another guy that was going after Daryl, and at that moment, the guy who was about to assault Carl was about to get a very rude awakening. Very hardcore scene when you saw Rick telling Michonne this guy is his. You know, this is the guy who was about to violate his son right there. The guy freaks out, and watching the guy get shanked by Rick in a very hardcore scene. This is definitely TV MA, folks. Hardcore without a doubt. Rick doing what he needs to do, but very cold and callous at the same time there. But Carl also gripping onto Michonne. You know, the both of them watching Rick just stab after stab, and you can hear it ridiculously, stab after stab. Really, really intense scene for that there. I could not get over how intense that was. Sitting there just kind of shocked in terms of what needed to be there. But it only harkens back to the very beginning, because naturally in the very beginning scene, when you see after that prison section there before the credits, the opening credits roll, with Rick sitting there all bloodied up against the truck, you wonder what happened to him. How did he get to be like that? They would obviously foreshadow what was going to be coming there. Didn't expect it to be as intense as it was like that, but then again, guys, this is The Walking Dead. It is what it is. Hardcore without a doubt, an amazing scene. Absolutely love the scene with Daryl talking with Rick shortly after that incident there, Daryl was trying to give Rick some water to clean up, and having that conversation and trying to catch up in terms of where they had been since the prison, how Daryl got mixed up with those guys and everything too there, and ending off with Rick telling Daryl that he was his brother. I mean, very poignant. Daryl has always been the right-hand guy for Rick on this show, but it was really great to see. You can see that level of trust. We can only imagine what's going to happen later on with some of the other tragedies, I'm sure, to come. But this moment definitely was a very, very great reunion, reawakening for Rick in terms of stepping up to that role and trying to, get on to the next stage of what they have to do. Later, conversations with Michonne telling Carl, we're not monsters, you don't have to look at us, you don't have to be afraid of us. And Carl saying, you know what, he's a monster too. They have to do what they have to do in terms of surviving there, but it was definitely very intense overall. So with all of that, making their way further on to Terminus, we finally get there. Rick being very smart about not going in through the front gate, taking all of his weapons and everything that they had, burying them on the side somewhere there, which I think is going to play a factor for next season. There's a reason why this show shows the things that it does, either planting seeds or getting ready for another major event there, so I'm sure that's going to come into play. But they make their way into Terminus. Rick, Michonne, Daryl, and Carl make it into what looks like a communication/planning area for Terminus there. They happen upon the woman who's putting out the radio transmissions in a microphone, talking about when you arrive, you survive. At that point, we're introduced to Alex as well as Gareth. Gareth apparently is the leader of Terminus, that's the assumption. He's the one who looks to be calling the shots, basically ordering people around him in terms of what they need to be doing there. And, obviously with Rick, Michonne, Carl, and Daryl looking on, like trying to very hesitantly figure out what's going on here, reluctantly they lower their weapons at the request of Gareth. Everyone is frisked. They're given reluctantly their weapons back. You can tell there's a little bit of a tense situation there. Nobody knows what to make of each other there. Rick doing the right thing by going instead of the front gate, going in through the back, which actually Gareth and the rest of them think is a pretty good idea. I probably would have done the same thing just to kind of scope things out there. Then further given a tour of the facility where they come across Mary, who's still cooking at that barbecue. We don't know what she's cooking, but she's cooking something. Clearly Rick is noticing things don't really seem right. Everyone's still kind of looking around, but he does make notice of the fact that some of their people are wearing some of the clothes of other members of their group, of Rick's group, and that really kind of immediately sets off a red flag. We see Glenn's riot gear, we see the poncho that Maggie had as well, a few other articles that are there as well. But the thing that really sets Rick off is the fact of that pocket watch being on one of their guys. So clearly, guys, something is going on. Something happened to the rest of the group that we saw from last week that arrived. Whether they survived is to be determined, which we'll find out by the end of the episode. But Rick, not really kind of waiting to see what was going to go down, grabbed the guy with that pocket watch, demanding to know where he got it. At that point there, very tense standoff. The guns are drawn. Everyone is really big, gunfights about to ensue. What's going to happen? There are guns on everybody. They're afraid that the guy that Rick is holding is going to get shot. He's telling him to lower his weapons. What happens next is that sniper that was actually on them does take out that guy that Rick was holding to begin with there, and at that point all the guns go off, gunfire, gunshots bouncing off everywhere. But if you notice, as the episode was going, a lot of gunfire was happening all around Rick and the group as they were trying to run away. They weren't trying to get shot by these people. These people were simply kind of leading them through what looked like a maze-like rat trap, trying to funnel them towards someplace there. Very reminiscent of Rick's conversation with Carl, talking about how to catch a rabbit or catch animals in that snare trap. Again, everything is planted for a reason. Very, very cool to see there. But again, a lot of disorientation, a lot of running around. Where were they going? What was going to happen? And then they finally happen upon this ritualistic, ceremonial type of room with candles. Quick flashes that we do see of them kind of running past certain areas and cages where you see it looks like human remains and bones on top of tarp. Look like they've been stripped, in terms of that there, maybe even burned. Very possible that that scene that we saw from the episode with Lizzie and Tyrese with that forest fire, something in the distance, that may have something to do with something happening at Terminus, where some of these people being burned after they've been stripped. Are these people really cannibals? It's very, very nasty subject matter. But I have a feeling that everything is going to kind of relate back to some of these episodes in this season. So make note of that. That very well could be a talking point later on for season 5 for that there. But they happen upon this room. They see all these things that are on the inside. There's candles everywhere. People's names on the floor as well. Very, very ominous in terms of just the overall environment in general, but they're trapped in this place with just candles everywhere. Up on the wall as the camera is panning around are the words, "Never again, never trust, we first, always." So obviously you don't know exactly what's going on just yet, but this group may have been wronged in some point there, and they're basically doing what they can to survive on their own. Again, these are quote-unquote the villains of this particular scene, and we don't know exactly what's going on with them, but of course it's very ominous at the same time. They make their way through. All these gates start dropping, they start funneling through again. More gunfire on the ground, you're seeing a lot of different things there as well. And finally, they come out right onto the train tracks in the very back there, cornered. Gareth and his men are basically holding them at gunpoint. You can see exactly how tense the standoff is going to be. Rick reluctantly putting down his weapons. Everybody, they put down their weapons. You don't know what's going to happen yet. But in the background is a train car with a big letter A on the back of it. So it's at this moment there that Gareth forces them to go to this boxcar there and get into them in the order of the ringleader, the archer, the samurai, and the kid. They get into that boxcar, and at that moment there we finally see they're reunited with Glenn, Maggie, Eugene, Rosito, Abraham, Sasha, Bob Stuckey, Tara. They're all there. So all the people that they were going to look for in terms of the rest of their group ever since the prison is finally back together again. With the exception of Tyrese, Carol, Judith, of course we don't know what's happening with them, and obviously Beth. I'm just assuming, Beth is going to be back for next season. We're going to have to find out what's going on with her. Who knows, we may have already seen her cooking on that barbecue with Mary already there. Who knows, we'll have to wait and see there. But the very last scene there is clearly with Rick, very resolved, looking at the camera and basically saying that they don't know what's going to hit them, they don't know what these people are in for, that type of thing, and then looking at the camera saying that they screwed with the wrong people. So how are they going to get out of this situation? Is this boxcar that they're in simply just like a holding tank for food, that type of thing, a cattle car of some type? We don't know, but it's going to be very intense in terms of what's going on. They very well could fill in an element that happened previously that we haven't seen yet, which is why Rick has an idea of what he's going to do in regards to being captured, that type of thing as well. But again, there's a lot of things to look forward to there. There's a lot of great things, I'm sure, for season 5. Very solid. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. This is actually the first real cliffhanger that this show has really had, in terms of just kind of keeping you like they stop it like right there and move on. Typically it's a catastrophic event, crazy action, explosive, somebody dies, and then we pick up, a few months or a year or so later. So a lot to look forward to. I'm really excited to see where season 5 is going to go. I can't believe the season is over already. That only means we have to binge watch it from episode 1 all the way till the finale and really take it all in there. But an amazing episode without a doubt. I really enjoyed this, absolutely. Guys, it is time to drop some comments down below. Let me know exactly what you thought of episode 16, an episode simply titled A, which I really liked. But tell me what you thought of this episode. I'm very curious to know. Was the season finale everything you expected it to be? Did you want it to be a little bit more hardcore? Did you expect it to be a little more explosive, kind of like the prison showdown that went down at the end of season 3 and also in the mid-season finale of this one? What was it that you thought of this episode? Very curious to see. And what are your thoughts of what's going to be coming for season 5? That's what I'm very curious to see as well. Of course, I always make it a point to respond to just about every single message that I receive, every single comment down below, so definitely drop those comments and let me know. And guys, as always, please give this video a thumbs up. Please like, share, and subscribe to Peep This Out. Even though the Talkback is ending, there will be content to fill beginning next Monday, and I'll be telling you more about that in the next food review that you'll see later this week. So you'll have some stuff to look forward to there. But definitely tell all the peeps about the channel. Tell everybody that you know, have them take a look at the content. There's a lot of great stuff there for just about everyone to keep you entertained, informed, and of course we want to have as much fun doing it. You know how we do it. Guys, it's been a pleasure delivering these weekly talkbacks to you week in and week out for season 4 of The Walking Dead. A lot to look forward to between now and the next season, so definitely keep checking the channel there. Without a doubt, I'm having a lot of fun putting this content together. And of course, you know, as I always say, I can't do this without you guys, and I definitely love doing it for you, so it's been a lot of fun there. Keep checking the channel. There'll be some stuff to look forward to between now and then. So guys, with that, I will bid you a fond farewell for this segment, and we will talk to you in the fall. Y'all know how we do it, guys. It's been your boy Ian K. Stay frosty.